All right.
So why don't we then start with somebody that I think you and I are pretty uniformly going to give a really good grade to.
Let's do it.
Let's go with the MVP candidate, Mr. Bryce Harper. First year as a full-time first baseman. And JP, if you don't mind flashing some of those stats for us for Bryce Harper. There you go. We know he's missed a little bit of time. 81 games played so far. A slash line 301, 403, 579. The one, Roy, that jumps out to me is the 983 OPS.
Yeah.
He was closer to, I think he was almost at one point was at 998 and was second in baseball to just Shohei Ohtani in OPS. But you look at the numbers there at the bottom: sixth in OBP, sixth in slugging, fourth in OPS. And Roy, I'll be honest with you, I saw these numbers. You kind of know how good Bryce Harper's been. And then I saw the numbers, the 301, 403, 579 slash line. And I went, is he better than I thought? Like, is he having a better season than just like my brain is allowing me to assume?
I think he may be, and that's the thing. It's like if Shohei Ohtani just decided to stop playing baseball today, Bryce Harper would be the NL MVP. Like, he'd be the best player in the National League, and it's almost to a point where we almost take him for granted because he just every time he comes up in a clutch situation, it seems like he drives in a run or extends a rally or things like that. Like this year, a couple more stats: 2 outs, minutes scoring position with 2 outs, 330 batting average. 462 on base percentage. I mean, like the man just keeps the ball rolling.
Yep.
Every single time he's out there, and it's like this guy, again, generational talent, on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a teenager, has met every single criteria of being a superstar. And it's like every single year, it's like this dude just brings it every year, which is amazing that this was his first year as an All-Star as a Philly because he's been doing this for years.
Yeah, and I think even John Smoltz, who you can tell still has a little Philly bias in his voice. That's exactly what he said in the All-Star game. He goes, this guy's won an MVP. They've been to a World Series. He took them, they were game away from a second consecutive World Series. And this is his first All-Star appearance. Now, injuries play a factor, obviously.
Sure.
But to put it into perspective, the year that he won the MVP in 2021, he had 35 home runs. Now, the RBI total was low. It was 84. Okay. That's kind of product of circumstance. This offense is clearly better than the 2021 offense.
Right.
But he hit 35 home runs, 84 RBI. And hit a slash 309, 429, and 615.
Okay.
He is on pace for more home runs through 81 games, more RBI, a similar average. We saw the slash line. And I think you're probably right. If it weren't for Shohei Ohtani just being just an absolute freak of a baseball player who is probably going to win the MVP despite not doing one of the two things that he's elite at.
Right.
Harper's probably your front runner at this point. I don't think we have a ton to discuss because to me, expectations were here. Reality is here.
Yeah.
That's an A grade for me.
That's an A grade for me too. He's batting 374. He batted 374 in June. I mean, he's getting better as the season goes along. There's really, playing pretty well for first base as well.
Yeah.
Like defensively. There really isn't anything. Like it's either an A. I can't even imagine where you can do A minus. If you really want to give him an A plus, I guess you could. But
sure,
he's at least an A no matter what.
So do you remember the scene in Moneyball where they're trying to recruit Scott Hatteberg?
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're playing first base. It's not that hard." He goes, "Tell him, Wash." And Ron Washington goes, "It's incredibly hard."
Yeah.
So I always talk about this. First base is not a position of you don't have to be an elite athlete to play first base.
Right.
It's more of a cerebral position. And the one thing that is not athletically just kind of grandfathered into playing a position is footwork, positioning, timing. And Bryce Harper, for a guy who really is in his, I guess probably, I would assume he probably hasn't even hit 162 full games at first base yet.
Yeah.
I watch him at times and his positioning's significantly better than I expected.
Yeah.
The footwork has gotten better. He knows how to shift on the bag better than I would have expected. He's playing short hops at a way that is, you just basically have to take them.
Yeah.
You take a ball off the chest. You don't want to do the Roger Dorn Olay.
Right.
But I watch him defensively, and there's maybe 3 guys in the league right now that I'm significantly more interested in watching defense. Christian Walker is above and beyond everybody defensively at first base. Matt Olson's a really good defender.
Right.
Bryce Harper's right there.
He's really good. And like you said, he's not a full season at first base. And, I know you're a Phillies fan, JP, you're a Phillies fan. I'm sure you guys remember the time where, they had to work on Ryan Howard's fielding because he wasn't an ideal, fielder at first base. Bryce Harper is just a natural athlete. I mean, he started as a catcher, then moved to the outfield, then became a first baseman, and was a pretty good defender at all three spots. So
Sure.
it's like, I think he's just a natural guy at just playing baseball and learning the nuances of the position. And as you see, like, it's paid off in spades. So
You know, I know it's not the same transition moving from the outfield to first base
Sure.
as the guy that I'm about to bring up. But I think we give a ton of credit to Mookie Betts, and rightfully so,
Yeah.
for being able to play every position on the planet.
Yeah, whatever you want.
I mean, he to me is the best baseball player on the planet.
Sure.
You know, stats will tell you, like Ohtani being a two-way guy,
Right.
like
He's an alien. So
right.
Take the aliens out.
On Earth.
On Earth.
Mookie Betts is the best.
Mookie Betts is the
Right.
best. Yes.
So moving from the outfield to second, and then midway through spring training, them going, listen, we don't like Gavin Lux at short. You're actually going to go play short.
Right.
I mean, is beyond expectations.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the baseball world probably has to give a little credit to Bryce Harper for making a move that, you know, he has rarely made before.
No, and I think you're right. I think people just assume that, oh, if you can play the outfield, that you can play first base. First base is a difficult position, like you said, with the footwork, with the nuances and things like that. I think going the other way might be easier. Like going from first base to outfield may be easier for some guys if you're athletically talented enough. But I think people just assume that, oh, first base, you just kind of stand there and wait for the ball to get thrown to you. I think people just have that assumption in their mind, where there's a lot of nuance to that position.
It's easier said than done. Being able to
100%
be at first base, make those catches. It's super easy to just, because it's such a routine, right? That you can kind of like break it out and drop it. My question is, you're right. Like, it is an extremely important position. So why is it? I feel like a lot of times teams typically put, like, quote unquote, their worst fielder there. I mean, even look how Bryce Harper found himself in that role at first base. He had the elbow injury. We needed to put him out in the field, and boom, Rhys Hoskins obviously went down. We found a spot for Bryce Harper to play in there.
So, and John Peace brings up Rhys Hoskins, right? Like, there are a lot of average defending first basemen. And I think from like we talked about, from a physical standpoint, you can get away at being an average defender. You notice really good defenders and really bad defenders. Right. Rhys Hoskins was a really bad defensive first baseman. To answer your question, JP, I think like the length of average is probably the largest of any one position. Like if you're an average shortstop, you're going to get noticed. And maybe almost even you could get exposed at times. Average catchers, teams run on average catchers all day long. Mm-hmm. Average first baseman can kind of get hidden a little bit. But I think that the guys that we notice are the ones that are really good and the ones that are really bad. So let me ask you real quick before we move on, JP.
Yeah.
We both give an A. Any difference for you on Bryce Harper's first full year as a first baseman?
Nah, I mean, obviously, you talked about it. Like, he has reached the expectations that we thought of him. And Bryce Harper, every single year, as long as he can be here, he's the leader, right? He's the face of this organization. And so I'll go even as far as saying, like, you know me, man, I'm always thinking the bigger picture in Philly sports. Dude, he's the face of Philly sports, in my honest opinion, right now, with how much he's done for the Phillies in Philadelphia, with the current athletes that we have going on. Obviously, this is a great era. I mean, we got Joel right now. We have, Jalen Hurts. Hopefully he bounces back this year. But Bryce Harper, he's taken this team to a World Series, 2 LCSs, MVP. I mean, this dude has done it all. He switched him from right field to first base, and he's become one of the best first basemen in this league. He's just a man. That's Bryce Harper.
And the ultimate panderer, by the way.
Yeah. You know what?
The greatest panderer of all time.
He understands how to connect with the Philadelphia audience. I wish there were other athletes around here who knew how to do that.
Get that water.